Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. RJ, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Everybody, today's guest is RJ Magee. He's the CEO of a growing group of residential service companies in the HVAC and plumbing space. When RJ first came through to MAP in 2022, he was running a single company. Today, now he leads companies with a full executive leadership team and a platform across multiple companies and brands, I think 5 now. Along the way, Sierra achieved its best year in history and earned the MAP Presidential Award, which is a very distinguished honor. Congrats for their execution and performance excellence. So RJ, awesome to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. And yeah, MAP has been a great resource for us. And so excited to be on here and talk more about just what we've done. And also we've utilized MAP to help us along the way.
Awesome, man. Well, before I go into all my questions, I always ask, is there anything else you want to tell us more about Sierra, about yourself? Give the audience context.
Yeah, just a little bit about us. Like you said, we're a home service company. We specialize in HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. We have 5 brands in 4 markets. So we're in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, Boise, Idaho, Denver, Colorado, and Tucson, Arizona. We have about 430 teammates in those markets. And so just really blessed to be able to lead those teams and to be a part of the growth story.
It's pretty awesome, man. Over 400 employees, 5 brands. When you first stepped into your position there, what was it like in contrast to where it is now?
Well, I'm a second generation HVAC guy. So when I first started, it was a family business. So I started from the ground up, started bending sheet metal in the shop and running calls out in the field, running jobs out in the field, and got to work my way, up through the company through accounting, project management, estimating, and then really eventually got into the home service side, the service residential side. We were a new construction company for the longest time. And obviously the Great Recession hit in '08. That really hurt us, especially in the Vegas market. So we had to learn how to, reinvent ourselves, rediversify what we were doing. And that's when we really got into service, AOR and maintenance. And that's where I focused mainly was on that side of the business.
Interesting. What year was that when you guys made that big pivot?
It was we started in 2010 is when we started. We didn't really figure it out until 2014. At that point in time, we started a separate company. We had our new construction company. Then we started our service AOR business in its own company. And that we partnered with some other groups at the time, some best practice groups, Certain Path, and they helped us find our way and get on the right path.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's what type of, that's big, right? To make that type of shift. But obviously it sounds like it was critical for your success. What was that like internally and how did you rally the troops around that?
It was a big change. When you look at a new construction company, it has a very unique culture of its own. It's more of a B2B business model instead of a B2C business model. And, the labor pools are completely different as well. So we really had to be thoughtful and mindful about how we were going to create a new culture and a new company that really focused on that B2C relationship, which was how do we build value, have a value proposition when we go into homes? How do we, ask for money for doing HVAC and plumbing work, whereas we're used to just having a contract with the builders before. So it was a lot different, and it changed the way we had to kind of view our field staff, our technicians. We really had to learn more about how we sell in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And, we landed on, we wanted to be an ethical company. We wanted to really educate our clients on hey, what decisions they had to make. And so that having those two different cultures, we were able to, separate them into their own really own companies and have them stand on their own 2 feet so that we could really drive each one independently. Like obviously there were still synergies and obviously we still work together as a broader team, but we wanted to make sure like we were specializing in those areas.
That's super interesting. I imagine that requires a lot of different skill sets and different muscles that you had to develop in order to, because that to me, it's like that's a different sales and marketing motion when you're doing B2C versus B2B. So
Mhm.
it sounds like that's a whole new skill set you guys had to bring in and develop.
We did. And, we used to always tell everyone like we were really good at new construction and everybody else seemed to be really good at service. And so it took a lot of learning,
Mm.
developing, educating ourselves to go out there and figure out how to be successful at that.
Mm. I want to take a step back. So when did you guys start working with MAP? Was it 2022?
2022 is when we started working with that.
And do you recall like what was happening in the business at that time when you guys realized, hey, maybe we need to work with MAP?
So for us, especially on the home service side, COVID was a really good time for home service companies.
Mm.
Everybody was at home. Everybody was sitting in their houses, starting to really notice things that were getting old. They were wanting to do renovations. And so from 2020 to 2022, we experienced some significant growth, especially on the home service side. And as we were coming into 2022, I really recognized that as we grew, the systems that we had put in place hadn't kept up with our growth. So we had outgrown a lot of our systems and processes. And at the time, it was just like, okay, throw people at the problem, throw money at the problem. Uh, there was so much growth there that we were really able to hide a lot of our inefficiencies. But as we started
Yep.
to level out in 2022, I just had this realization that we really needed to evolve a lot of these systems and processes, get everybody like dialed in, speaking the same language, focusing on the same things. And that's when I'd heard about MAP. And so I went to one of Pepe's workshops in early 2022. And that's when I really got exposed to the whole MAP system.
Interesting. I'm always curious. Do you remember? How did you hear about MAP?
I did. I actually heard about MAP from another person in the industry, Ken Goodrich. He was on a
Oh, yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
and he had been talking about the MAP and the MAP systems and how important they'd been for Gettle and their growth story. So I thought, well, shoot, I should probably go and check it out and see if it's something that would benefit us.
The Ken Goodrich story is pretty amazing. And he's an amazing MAP advocate because he talks so highly about how MAP has helped, how it helped Gettle, and it's helping his current company, Kenerator.
Mhm.
So I think we understand some of the existing challenges, right? You were champagne problem. You guys were growing so much that it broke some of the systems, right? But then things leveled out, and so you needed help. Um,
Um,
what changed? What changed in terms of like accountability or internal once you went through the workshop, or once you started to bring in Pepe for VFTs and some of the ongoing work with Sierra?
Well, I think what it did was it one, the level of accountability that Pepe brings. Like he's an amazing business coach, but not only does he bring it, like just the systems and the processes that MAP coaches and teaches, it brings its own level of accountability as well. And it allows you to get on the same page with your other teammates. So for instance, we didn't have any vital factor dashboards before, and those vital factor dashboards are so critical to the business because it really focuses you and your management team back to the things that you guys know matter the most. It's so easy just with the day to day of everything that's going on as operators. It's so easy to get caught up in the firefighting that we all do and get caught up in, the trivial many that really don't move the needle. And having those vital factor dashboards that help you get refocused and recentered on what matters were really critical to us. It also got us speaking the same language. Everybody had their own set of, I'll call it KPIs that they felt were important. But when we really sat together as a team and identified the ones that were the most important, it created a lot of alignment and synergy as we move forward. The other thing is the goals and controls that we do. Our management team does it today. We've layered it down to, all the way down to our frontline managers. So everybody has their monthly set of goals and controls that they focus on. And it allows everyone to know, what's everyone working on? What are the priorities for the month? And then also hold each other accountable to making sure that they stay on track and hit them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I always found it. So in my prior company, we used MAP extensively, which is why I'm now here at MAP. I joined after being a 3-time client, and I always found it super helpful how it just improved the alignment, having those goals and controls that zippered up throughout the entire company. So we had our annual goals at the executive level, and then we could just cascade them down through the departments, and which we could see how any person in the company was contributing towards the ultimate goal of the company. So everybody was aligned, right? It was an excellent forcing factor.
I think too, it's just that transparency of
Yeah.
getting those dashboards out there and allowing everybody to see what's happening with the financial performance of the company. I think when everybody gets to see that and understands what's going on, you get rid of all the questioning and second guessing. It's everybody's on the same page, to your point.
Yep. As you've grown from one company into leading 5 companies today, how has your leadership team changed, and how has your role changed in terms of how you have to lead that team, or maybe how MAP helps you?
Yeah, so it's been really interesting for me, especially. I'm very much like a doer. I like to do everything myself. I like to be hands-on with it, with everything that I do. And as I moved from really my role of leading one company to now leading this group of 5 companies, I had to move out of this role of being an operator, being a doer, having my hands and fingers in everything, and really focus more on building out the right team to do a lot of the day to day. And that was hard to,
It's really hard.
to give up control, right? Because I'm a recovering control freak, and so I do my best to stay out of it, but it is difficult. But for me, it was really about focusing on like developing the right leaders and making sure we were building the right infrastructure to support those leaders. And it was about like being the one that did it myself. So really taking myself out, not being that bottleneck. And that's where Pepe and his coaching, and then um, like Pepe has a very unique way of like bringing perspective when you need it. He's not somebody that's ever worked in home service himself, but he's coached hundreds of companies and just is able to bring so much wisdom and just insight into just our day-to-day operations and into our bigger vision and our bigger strategy. So he really helps us to just develop that and refine that, and then also help me in like de- creating this new leadership team and identifying like who I felt like needed to be the key players as we continued to grow the company.
That's awesome. When prior to Pepe, prior to MAP, how were you holding those team meetings, or how were you structuring your meetings as opposed to now working with Pepe? What were you doing before?
Yeah, we were probably more reactive before than we are now. I would say we're a lot more proactive in the way that we do things. So like before Pepe, after Pepe, he brought in a lot of like structure and brought in a lot of like just the vital factors and whatnot that help just create alignment. Before, it was more about the fire was already blazing, and so we were treating the symptoms of the fire. We weren't treating the root cause. And I think now that we built out this leadership team, we're able to like really dig in and figure out like what the root cause of the issue is, and work to solve for that root cause versus just treating the symptom and waiting for another fire to pop up.
Hi, if you're a CEO out there who's struggling with focus for your company, aligning your team, accountability, if you're struggling with execution, connecting the dots from where you're at to where you want to be, we've got a great program for you here at MAP. My name's Michael Cato. I'm the CEO. Most importantly, I was a client for 15 years, sold my company to a public company, and then bought MAP so that we can help other entrepreneurs with this specific problem. We're a 60-year-old company. We've worked with 170,000 individual executives and CEOs. We've worked with 15,000 organizations. This is what we do. Click the link below to learn a little bit more about how people just like you, CEOs, have transformed their business and ultimately transformed their life by running through the MAP system.
That's pretty interesting. That's I always found that when we were working with our senior consultant, he was Lee Froschiser. One of the values that I really loved is that it was the two things. They were super experienced, like you mentioned, right? They're able to bring the wisdom because, like I always say, they've seen the movie before. And so if somebody's seen the movie, it's like, hey, man, you're about to step on that landmine. Don't step on that. And here's why, right? And do this instead. Like, that's so valuable. And then two, just having like an independent third party that can be part of the meeting and facilitate it so you can participate instead of having to lead, right? And be part of the team and problem solve or have that really important discussion about root cause. Like, hey guys, what's happening? And I always found that to be so helpful as we were scaling and fixing issues and problem solving.
No, that's exactly right. And it is, to your point, to be able to like not be so worried about driving the direction of the meeting, but more like being an active participant and an active listener in those meetings and really like hearing what your team's problems are and helping them find the solutions. Having that third party is huge.
Yeah. And also for accountability, right? Like they're going to hold people accountable, which is sometimes helpful as the leader, right? You don't always have to be the bad guy. Sometimes that helps. So Sierra is a family business. Are there any, particular unique challenges that came with leading that family business, especially when you guys are trying to make big changes or scale the business or potentially exit?
Every family business has its own dynamic. They can be a blessing at times. They can be a curse at times, right? For us, we had really good family dynamics within the business. There were 3 partners originally. One of them was my father. He had 2 other partners, and we had other sons in the business. And they did a really good job of separating the work and family and holding us accountable. But we also always knew we were held to a higher level. Some of the challenge we faced were when we were looking at succession planning and looking at what does the next stage of this look like. At first, we very much were in that camp of like the sons were going to take over and be that succession plan and buy the fathers out. As we really started to dig into it and put a value to it, the fathers identified that they really didn't want to burden the kids with the debt of the business. It was worth a lot more than they initially thought it was. And so that's when we looked towards private equity to come in and be a potential buyer. Now, as somebody that was wanting to purchase the business, I obviously in that moment wasn't thrilled with that decision. It's worked out really well for us, but I think that was a challenge we had to go through as a family. Was we had this vision of what succession looked like for a long time, and then it had to change because of they'd worked their whole lives. They'd worked 30 plus years on building a brand and building a legacy. They deserve to get paid for what they had built, and going through that, it was a challenge, but we were able to navigate it. We were able to bring in private equity to help with that and help facilitate them getting what they needed to get, as well as creating opportunities for us on the other side.
It sounds like a win-win. Also sounds like that was probably challenging to navigate. What talk about what happened after the transaction with private equity? Congratulations, by the way. It's amazing what you all have accomplished. It's really hard. Most businesses don't succeed at all, let alone get to a successful exit. So congrats. It's awesome. But maybe talk about like how things have changed since the acquisition.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, I would say that I think we all sat there the day after it happened and we're just like waiting for the hammer to fall, right? There's this unknown of like, what's going to happen now. And we were all shocked that they, for the most part, really just wanted us to keep doing what we've been doing for such a long time. And they really just wanted to give us resources and capital to go out and grow and create opportunities. And there's this like 90-day window where it's like you question every decision that you make, and you question like who's looking and if somebody's monitoring your emails now or whatever the case may be. And eventually you come to this point where you start to trust each other, and you realize that, hey, we all just want the same thing, and that's to win. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so for us, it was, that first 90 days was a little rocky. We sold in January of 2020, and then COVID hit March of 2020. So it was like, at first we thought we were geniuses. Right. And then the home service side went through like what was the Renaissance era of the home service side. So then we thought, oh shoot, maybe we sold too early. But I could say this, like it all works out for a reason, and we were really lucky, and we probably wouldn't have been able to grow over the last 5 years had we not made some of those changes and made that partnership and had, a new way of thinking. It's a lot easier to use somebody else's money to grow than it is to use your own money to grow. And so it just gave us uh, a new outlook and a new way of like driving the business than we had before.
That's definitely true, right? Using other people's money.
Mhm.
Now that you're operating, with private equity and as a partner, what are your goals for the next phase of the business? You've got 5 brands now, multiple locations. What's next?
We've got 5 brands. We've grown from when they acquired us. Sierra was doing about 16 million of revenue. Now through the 5 brands, we're doing about 110 million of revenue. And, revenue is a great number, but, EBITDA is more important, obviously. So we've got our EBITDA sitting around like 17% right now. And we just want to continue to scale and grow, do more acquisitions, create opportunity for our people. Like that to me is the most important thing, is like, if we want to create opportunity for our people. So to do that, we got to continue to grow, and we got to raise the lid of everyone around us. So when we do that, when we raise the lid of everyone around us and we create that opportunity and we create that growth, it's going to change lives. And that's what we want to do, is create opportunity that changes lives for people. And so with that, we've got goals. We want to get to where we're, 450, 500 million top line, obviously 20% EBITDA on the bottom line. And then eventually we'll have another transaction where we'll exit again and pay back the people that have invested in us, and hopefully we give them a really nice return. But it's a growth story. We want to grow, and we want to see our people grow.
That's amazing. I have a couple of thoughts. I mean, that's actually our owner, Michael Cato. He says that a lot, that he believes so much in entrepreneurship because it changes lives, right? Because it can change an individual's life, but also like a community. It changes the community and brings jobs, and it can be transformational. So I totally agree with you. But the story you tell, that we talk about Ken Goodrich, it's very similar to the story of Ken Goodrich, right? Where he had that one exit to private equity, and then they put together the 1,000-day plan, grew like crazy, and then exited again. So it sounds like you guys are on that path, man. That's awesome. I'm curious, when you're out there looking for additional companies to buy or ways to grow, what are you looking for? What's attractive?
The most important thing is just good people, right? I always say I want to partner with somebody I'd want to have a beer with, right? Like I don't want to work with jerks. And so we really look for like good management teams, high character, high integrity, care about their people, growth minded, growth oriented, that they're coachable. We want people that are coachable and want to be coached and want to better themselves. And so, obviously that's probably the most important thing, is looking for the right team and teammates, future teammates. And then obviously looking at the MSAs, that we're going into, we want to make sure that they're growing MSAs, being a primarily like heating and cooling portfolio. We look for, heating days versus cooling days. Can we find a market that's heavier weighted toward heating days or heavier weighted towards cooling days? Growing MSAs. Right now, we're really focused on the West Coast. So we see opportunities in like Salt Lake, Reno, more in Idaho, continued expansion into Phoenix, New Mexico, Colorado Springs. So there's a lot of just different areas out here on the West Coast we feel like we can continue to grow before we move eastern into the rest of the United States.
Okay. When you look back, you guys have experienced a ton of growth. You said 16 million to over 100 million in gross, which is amazing. If you look back at that time and that explosive growth, what's been a big shift that made that level of growth possible? Is it the leadership team? Is it, how you've evolved as a CEO? Like, can you pinpoint anything or things?
I think it's all about like leadership development at the end of the day. I think that you have to constantly be developing yourself, one as a leader, and then two, your people. Um, John Maxwell law of the lid, right? The company's only going to ever raise the lid of the leader. So you as the leader have to constantly be pushing yourself to grow and expand. Uh, for instance, it's a big reason why we joined MAP, because I knew I had to grow as a leader so that everybody underneath me could grow. And I met Pepe and I knew like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to like kick my butt, but it's what I need, right? It's the accountability I need to, in my like entrepreneurial mind that is like ADHD and all over the place. Like I need this system and I need this structure to help me create consistency and structure for my team. And so making sure that like we're creating that growth and that leadership development for everyone. So, I mean, as soon as I went to MAP, we started sending other people to the workshops, right? Then we got Pepe in here. Then next thing you knew, we were doing quarterly offsites with our entire team with Pepe. And MAP's great, but it can't just stop there. We work with other leadership development coaches as well. We have a company called X's and O's of Success here in Vegas that comes in and focuses just on like culture and leadership development. And they help like with our rising leaders. So we have a program called Rising Leaders that is for like techs that want to be future managers or young managers that want to grow into like upper management. We'll put them through like management classes as well. So it's really just creating and facilitating that growth and creating that culture of growth where people embrace that change and believe in change management versus are like being resistant to it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're investing in your people. I mean, instead of them being afraid of it. Is MAP a part of your expansion? So you acquire a new company, a new brand. Do you bring MAP into that new company? How does that work?
So we have a budget planning workshop that we do every year for our portfolio companies. And one thing we've done is we brought Pepe in and we've introduced all of the like key leadership to the MAP principles, and we've rolled out the vital factor dashboards and we've rolled out the goals and controls. And we think it's a really important part of creating um, integration in our systems and processes. Like it's really important as the portfolio grows that we have integrated systems and integrated processes. So everyone's not running around like a chicken with their head off, but also we really look at like MAP as a part of just who we are as a culture. I mean, one of the best lessons I think we learned from MAP is attack the problem, not the person. And I saw so many like teammates' eyes like light up when they kind of heard that, because we've all been guilty of attacking somebody and not attacking the problem. And when you get people focused on attacking the problem and not the person, and realizing that when you get a lot of smart people together, the answer's in the room. That's the saying we had is like the answer's in the room. And that's what like team consulting that MAP teaches. It teaches you how to utilize your team to find a solution. And so we think that's a really important part of the culture, is getting everyone to rely on one another to help like solve problems.
It's such a simple exercise, but it's so common to see people that go through MAP. Either they go to the workshop or they go through training, they do VFTs, they give that feedback all the time. They love the team consulting exercise because you're right. It just brings people together and it's just such a good collaborative way for people to contribute towards a problem and solve problems. I totally agree. All right, last question I have for you is, if you're talking to another founder out there, another CEO or leader who maybe was experienced what you were before, stuck running the day-to-day, can't let go, can't delegate, wants to scale, what do you tell them?
I think my advice would be like, hire great people, be the dumbest person in the room. Don't be afraid of like making the hire that's going to like make your life easier. Recognize that like you more than likely are the bottleneck and you more than likely are the problem. And if you care about your people, you'll make that that hire because it's what's going to give them the opportunity to grow. And there's a good chance that you're limiting the growth of not only the company, but the people in the company. And that's a pretty big responsibility. And it's a really hard thing to admit. Like, I'm speaking from experience. And so like, make that hire to help raise the lid of the organization and get out of the way and let your people run and sprint because it's what they want to do.
Really good advice. And it is hard, but it's really good advice.
Yeah.
RJ, thanks, man. I really appreciate you being here. Before we hop off, where can people go to learn more about Sierra or potentially connect with you?
Yeah. I have a LinkedIn for RJ Magee. Google that. You can find me there to learn more about me, learn more about Sierra, or my email is rjmcgee@sierracoolslv.com. Feel free to reach out there. Happy to learn more about you and learn more about how it can help.
Well, congratulations on all the success and wish you guys the best. It seems like you're on an awesome path. So I know MAP is proud to work with you guys and be a small part of the success you guys have.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on today. And I enjoyed the conversation and look forward to having many more.
Awesome, man. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time.